Welcome, everyone. It's time for another exciting Spotlight interview this week. And this week, there's no way you haven't heard of this game or seen its ads. If you have played a single mobile game with rewarded video content in the past year or two, it's almost inescapable. Mr. Autofire from Lightheart Entertainment. And today, so excited to have Miikka Ahonen here to tell us about Lightheart and Mr. Autofire and how this great, incredible hit was born and built and sustained. Mika, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad we're finally doing this. I know it was it took a while to get this one scheduled. I think I have to cancel on you because of a hurricane? I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I think that was at least one of the reasons. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's start here. Can you just give us an intro to yourself and your history and background in game development and some of the projects you've worked on?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Mika. I got started in games in 2011 actually at Rovio, so the Angry Birds company. Angry Birds had been out for a year, so I was part of the first wave of personal growth, I guess you could say. Just to paint a picture, I think I was like the 70th employees, so 70.
Oh, wow.
And a few years later, we had like 700 employees. So it's kind of crazy years.
Yeah. Like going from the point where at least you kind of maybe recognize people to like, who are all these people around here? It's a massive company.
Exactly. And initially, I actually didn't work directly with games. I worked in e-commerce. So I work at e-commerce and then kind of corporate development, Excel, PowerPoint, market data stuff. When Rovio transitioned to free-to-play...
All the most fun parts.
Exactly, yeah.
It's been my past couple months. Just
So, yeah.
I've got a great spreadsheet I'm working on today. Super excited. I actually do have an exciting game design spreadsheet today. So
I never let go of spreadsheets, totally. I still have my spreadsheets. That's something I'm going to hold on to, But when Rovio transitioned to free-to-play, so did I, kind of. So being a lifelong gamer combined with a background in product management outside of games ended up working out for me. And my first credited game is actually Love Rocks starring Shakira. You've probably never heard about it.
No, unfortunately not. Sorry.
It's a pretty innovative casual puzzle game with the Shakira IP. Eventually, the game didn't end up doing so well, but it makes for a great story.
I have to pause there. Okay, in your estimation, did the Shakira IP help the game get organic downloads, or was it just a mismatch of IP and gameplay?
I think a little bit of both. I think like this is like interesting sidetrack, but I think we did get some organic downloads because of it, but I don't think it helped the business in the end.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that IP deal even with all the love I have for Shakira. I wouldn't do it for that game.
She's undoubtedly one of the biggest music stars, celebrities, well known around the world. But a lesson I've learned kind of over and over again is that intellectual property has to have the right fit with the gameplay and the audience. And I think you could kind of make the argument. It logically makes sense. Like Shakira has a massive global audience. The demographics of those audience match the demographics of puzzle game gamers. Therefore, a Shakira game for puzzle game will work. But the problem is the what someone's looking for in a Shakira brand experience or a Shakira game is probably not puzzle. So unless you have an incredible creative where Shakira just like lowers the CPI so much, it's kind of a hard, it's hard to see how that leads to the success I'm sure they were hoping for.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I 100% agree. But it was also one of the first casual puzzle games at Rovio.
Mm-hmm.
One
of the first. Was it one of the first expansions outside of the Angry Birds franchise?
I think it was. It was not the first one, but one of the first ones, at least in free to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like why I like to include that is that I ended up working on many other casual puzzle games, and like Rovio got really good at making puzzle games. Now they're actually like one of the best. So I ended up working on Angry Birds, Match, Small Town Murders. I did work a little bit on Battle Bay as well, Angry Birds Friends, and I think like what it really was great. What was really great about it was that I got to see very different genres in a relatively short amount of time. So it was a very good learning experience. The whole I was actually eight years at Rovio in the end.
Coming from that kind of e-commerce product manager background, I'm someone who's like a game designer and a game producer who's picked up many product management skills over the past decade as I've been working on live and free-to-play game. I mean, I guess it's 15 years or so. But like, I came at it from games and learned a lot of what you would consider product management. And now I think as much about marketing and as much about kind of data configuration and data design as I do about game mechanics. And that was a challenging transition. I'm curious what the transition was like for you as a gamer, as a fan, going from kind of more, let's call it, boring corporate world to the difficult and challenging world of marrying creativity of game design with these traditional product management tools.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, actually. So I had a very fortunate supervisor when I did the transition, and he basically kind of set it up to me like there's no shortcuts. So I kind of started as a junior game designer at a game team to pick up the basics, and I did junior game design stuff. Kind of it was like a interesting transition in the company, coming from kind of middle management role to junior game design role. I did that for a while before then transitioning into like a more traditional product manager type of work. So yeah, my then supervisor didn't allow me to skip the fundamentals.
Right.
So I think since then,
you're gonna design these 500 puzzle levels, and then you'll start feeling like a game designer.
Not maybe 500, but I have done casual puzzle levels.
Yeah.
I can still do casual puzzle levels if I have to. I'm not the best at it, but yeah, I can do it.
So eight years. Well, one thing that I'll actually highlight there is the importance of having a good mentor and good coach as you made this transition, and someone who is willing to make an investment in you and say like, hey, you're going to be doing stuff that feels a little junior for you, but it's the only way to do it. The only way to be a game designer is to be a game designer. Do you take that lesson with you into how Lightheart was built or how it was operated? Is there did that kind of give you a nugget of wisdom going forward?
Yeah, I guess Lightheart was started by people who wanted to make games. So in short, our mission is to be like the best place to make games for enthusiastic and talented game developers.
Got it.
So we founded the company 2019. All of us founders are pretty senior. In fact, the rest of them are something like 20 years in games each. So I'm from the junior side of things here.
Got it.
And 2019, there wasn't really a shortage of game dev jobs. So just founding another game company wasn't didn't make much sense. What every one of us founders had seen, though, during our careers at that point was that sometimes you would see people that actually love making games get burned out making games, and we had these experiences as well, and it kind of made us wonder that like why do you get burned out doing something that you love, and kind of the discussions ended, or our rethinking ended, that this is maybe due to things such as like defective organizations, bad quality decision making, and often decision making becoming slow, and wielders of power are spread somewhere in a hard to navigate organization chart. And the great game developers that we all wanted to work with and kind of all wanted to be as well tend to not give their best in this type of environment. Mm-hmm. And this was kind of the problem that we set out to solve.
Got it. So was it a team that was working together at Rovio? Like, was it a bunch of late night griping at the bar about how things could do better, and then one day you're like, hey, we could do it better? Like, is it kind of that classic story? Or how did Lightheart go from a set of ideas about how things could be improved to an actual company?
Yeah, so there's 5 of us co-founders working at the company, plus one who's our chairman. So there's Mika, who's an all-around game artist, Chris and Joni, full-stack game programmers, Kalle, our CEO, and me with product responsibilities, and Samuli, who's our chairman of the board. And actually, everyone else but me already founded one company together.
Got it.
That was Helsinki Gameworks back in 2014. I was, like previously mentioned, I was at Rovio for the whole time. But Kalle, who I met at Rovio, had left Rovio to found Helsinki Gameworks 2013, 2014 or something like this. And actually Helsinki Gameworks exited to Next Games, or more like merged together with Next Games, 2014. And fast forward to 2019, some of these founders from that time were thinking what to do next. And basically the team was missing a product co-founder, and that's where I came in.
Got it. And when you started, I mean, well, let's give a foundation here, because I think Mr. Autofire has been a massive success, right? And I think it's easy if you work in more mid-core games, or even shooters, or whatever, things that have kind of lower user numbers, higher revenue per user in success. It's easy to look at Mr. Autofire and go like, oh, it's just kind of like a hyper casual thing, and dismiss it. But I mean, you guys have a giant hit on your hands that's been live for several years. So I'm hoping you could share some metrics with us just to help the audience understand the scope of the game and how big it is, and how successful it is. Yeah,
so Mr. Autofire, actually we've been out exactly 3 years. We had a 3-year anniversary with cake and everything just last week. So we have over 10 million installs so far across Android and iOS, and more than $40 million in lifetime revenue.
That's great.
Across ads and in-app purchase.
And
so
go
ahead.
How big is the team working on that?
So the total headcount for Lightheart is 33, and that's kind of split half and half between Mr. Autofire and the new game team. We don't have a lot of admin, so it's pretty much everyone is working on a game.
So if you look at just the people on Mr. Autofire over the course of 3 years, it's like $2 million per employee. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I'd be pretty happy with that level of success. And do you have a sense for how that revenue is split between IAP and rewarded video ads? I mean, you guys do a great job of implementing rewarded video, and this is something I've learned when I mostly came from games that were 95% IAP revenue, and when I had the chance to work on one that flipped the script, I was actually really amazed at how big the rewarded video ad revenue can be with a well-designed game with great retention. So I'm just kind of curious, like, roughly what the mix is for you guys.
I mean, it depends a little bit on the geo, and it depends on what kind of campaigns we are running. But roughly speaking, it's like 70% in-app and 30% ads.
Got it. So if you're looking at it from the outside and you think it's hyper casual, open this game up and explore its feature depth. There's a lot more going on there, and there are a lot of kind of best-in-class features to convince a player not just to stick around, but to spend a lot of money. And I think, I mean, again, just thank you for giving us that basis of the stats. I think that for a small team, small nimble team going 3 years, that's just like a great business. So let's go back in time to around that founding moment. You guys knew you wanted to start a company. They'd probably learned a lot of lessons, your co-founders, from their experience starting and exiting and then being part of Next Games for a long time. When you started Lightheart, did you all know that Mr. Autofire was going to be the game? Did you know this was going to be your first game, or was it a process of let's build our, how did it get started? Culture first, game first, how was the foundation of this company built?
We did not, in fact, know that this would be the first game. It was very much a team first and a culture first approach. Prior to the kind of Lightheart's official founding, Chris and Mika had already put some sweat equity on a couple of prototypes that helped us get our first angel investment money in. But we didn't have a game that we were comfortable committing to at that point. We started prototyping in earnest with the full team in summer 2019. I think we made about 10 digital prototypes during the summer. By the end of the summer, we decided to commit to Mr. Autofire, or Shooter, as it was called back then. And I mean, you asked a little bit about process, or like how would we approach it. To start this kind of prototyping fuzzy front-end endeavor, I did create this lightweight process to assess early-stage prototypes. So, I mean, you must have seen that there's some similarities to Archero in the way that our game is structured. So Archero had just come out. Mm-hmm. We didn't set out to build a game like Archero, but it was kind of one of the reference games. Yeah. When we were kind of thinking what kind of a concept to do. I don't have we don't have time to go to all the details, but kind of the assessment boils down to just 5 questions. And those are like, the first one is the game fun? Very subjective, still important. The second one was, does it explain itself in a 3 to 5 second ad creative? So can we just record the core gameplay, and it looks something that I would like to try, and I understand what it's about.
Yeah, I think I can't emphasize how critical that is in our modern mobile game environment. Like, if someone can't understand it in a 3 to 5 second first impression of an ad, like, it's going to be a challenge for you to get people to play your game. So did you run ads like on those digital prototypes to see if people got it, or was it more of a subjective, hey, here's 5 seconds of gameplay, do I understand what's going on? Because I really think, from all the ads I've seen, that's a key part of Mr. Autofire's success, is how easy it is to understand what's happening and to actually have a representative game experience in a playable ad.
Yeah, so at that point it was more just a subjective assessment. So kind of our whole approach is that instead of doing a lot of upfront testing, we try to get to the market as fast as we can and test it there. So kind of once we commit to a game, then we try to time box like 3 months of time, and in the 3 months we actually build the game. with enough scope that we can run ads and test it, and we'll get up to like day one retention with that. So we kind of skip, the click testing part,
right,
and try to rush it to the first playable on market.
It's very clever.
I think that's kind of the unique thing in our approach.
So sorry, I'm going to come back to that because again, that's really an interesting approach that I think other people, if they're not stealing, should steal. But we've got two of 5 on your assessment. Is it fun?
Gotcha.
Can I understand it in 5 seconds?
Yeah.
I need the rest of this wisdom because I'm going to steal it for my own evaluating the prototype I'm building right now.
Yeah. So actually, the next one is related to what I just said. So the next one is, can we ship a version in 3 months? So can we make a version of this that we can actually put out to the market in 3 months? And the fourth one is, can we use a progression system from an existing free-to-play game? So what I found out is that designing and innovating with progression systems is pretty hard.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you should know about that is that if you do it, you have to devote a lot of time to it because your results will come in a year or 2. So the cycles for learning are pretty long. So we figured that we can kind of move more fast with core game innovation and then limit the risk by just taking something that works with the progression systems. So that was kind of the point with there. And the final one is, this is also important. Do you see yourself working on this? Because if people don't say yes to that, you're gonna not have a good game because they're not motivated to build the game.
Yeah, to go back to the point you made about burnout previously, and why do people who love making games get so angry, mad, burnt out, disappointed with game development? I mean, I love games. I love making games. I love playing games. I love talking to people who make games. It's like the only thing. It's at this point with this many children, it's just like family, video games. That's kind of it. That's a TV. That's what I've got time for. And as I've been kind of building my own studio from the earliest stages, been reflecting on my career and thinking like, why was I angry so often, or disappointed or frustrated? Like, why wasn't it more fun to make video games? And the number of times I look at myself having to commit a long stretch of time building a game that, yeah, maybe it should be a business. Maybe it is a bet I would make, but it's not something I or the people who were assigned to it wanted. Not having that passion for it makes the job so much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, an investor asked me a couple of weeks ago that, like, Mika, do you still think there's a successful mobile free-to-plays to be made, or is it done? You can no longer make successful mobile free-to-plays. And I answered to them that I think there is endless amount of viable concepts out there, and then you just need to pick one to your team that suits them. So it's not like it has to be this specific one thing. There's always viable concepts out there if you can execute on them.
Yeah, I love that 5-question framework. And to go to the progression system as well, I spent a long time as a monetization designer, and my work and my success, I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's not about innovation. It's not about business model innovation. It's about, I look at it almost like the engine of a car. It's like I play all these games to understand what all the free-to-play mechanics are. And then it's a question of, well, for this game and this audience, what is the right set of standard tools off the tool shelf, right? Like many times, sometimes monetization design is where to innovate, but a lot of times that's not where you need to spend your most out there creative risks. It's actually the place to be a lot of times just do a really good, highly polished job with good UX, known systems, make things easy for people to understand. It's not about oh my goodness, they've never seen this type of skin system before with, taking all these skins and forging them into gems and then turning the gems in the anvil of ultimateness into the new super, like, just use what works, I guess.
Exactly. It's more about curating than actually coming up with new stuff.
Right, and that's why that 3 months metric is such a great one. Can we get it playable in 3 months? Can we put it not so that it's not us making the decisions, it's the players? Because if you work on something for 3 months and it had 40% day one retention, you'd be like, well, we've got something here. And if you worked on it for 3 months and it had 5% day one retention, you'd have to say, we really have to believe in this to give it another 3 months, because you cannot build a successful business on 5% day one retention. And what a gift to learn that in 3 months instead of after 3 years, Yeah,
exactly. You do have to have a, how would I say it, intellectually honest mindset that you are actually looking for. You're looking for the game that you should be spending your time on, and not reasons to continue the current project. So that's a kind of game team starts to often love their own game, including myself, and looking for reasons why could I continue on this. You need to be very brutal to yourself and the game to make sure that you're looking for the facts and not just reasons to continue.
Yeah, and as Lightheart has grown from that initial set of, was it 6 or 8 co-founders? Sorry.
6.
From that initial set of 6 to over 40 people, how have you reinforced and sustained your culture? How have you, made sure to stay true to what allowed you to be so successful so quickly?
Yeah, so we're 33 now, so
33.
Not quite 40, but
sorry, I generously rounded up.
Yeah, soon. I think the biggest challenge has been actually the last 12 months as we transitioned from everyone is working on one game to we actually need enough people in all disciplines and all relevant skill sets to staff 2 full game teams. So that has been. I think we're actually starting to be there, but it was quite painful. We stood by everything that we kind of agreed on with our culture's founding principles, like transparency, self-management, all of these things. But what we needed to do is to make a lot of the things explicit, that when we were just founders, it was kind of obvious to everyone. So responsibilities and roles of each discipline and how we communicate, how we give feedback, all of these we had to make explicit. And at the same time, we were hiring a lot of people, right? So we doubled our headcount in the past 12 months.
Yeah, and that's got to be, when you have a small group of people who have kind of an unspoken understanding, the work to actually make that a written down, aligned on, clearly communicated set of expectations and behaviors, you might find out, oh, actually, we didn't have this clear understanding. We just got lucky. Or, we're almost all thinking the same thing, but actually we need to make a critical decision about X or Y. It's not an easy thing to double the size of your team, your company, while operating a live game and building a new game team out.
And one of the things you should do is talk to the people that join the company later. Talk to your new joiners and figure out how they are doing, how they understand these things. And obviously you might learn something new, but also there might be some things that are obvious to you as a founder or an early employee, but a new joiner doesn't have the same context. So you have to actively bridge that context.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the point of that the game is easily understandable in 3 to 5 seconds. I mean, one of the games I've been playing the most lately is Rovio, and I see a Mr. Autofire ad once, twice a day, probably, with the number of rewarded videos I see. And I think it does a really great job, as you said, passing that bar of I see it, I understand it, I know what to expect if I start playing, it looks fun, I can have a good experience in the playable. And you guys have been running UA on that game for probably 3 years continuously, I'm guessing, if you just had your anniversary. What are some of the keys to being able to profitably run UA on kind of this hybrid casual? It's not a hyper casual game. It's like pick up and play with deep monetization systems,
Yeah, I think that's actually accurate. So a great UA team is where you start with, right? And really good at creative. We were quite lucky to be able to hire really good people in these key roles who know what they're doing. That said, I do believe that your product is in the heart of it, so it sets parameters for your user acquisition team to work with. And I think you kind of said it. It's a fun-looking game that's also fun to play, and there is an actual free-to-play game behind all of it. I don't think it's anything much more complicated than that. Survivor.io, by the way, it's awesome. Like, they really, really nailed it. When it came out, I was convinced that it'll do well, but I couldn't foresee the scale that they can do with that game. The scale really, it is mind-blowing. But if you look at these like historical downloads for these action arcade games or action games or platformer games or runner games or anything, from Stickman Fight to Subway Surfers to Fruit Ninja, there's always been demand for good action games on mobile. It's just that not many developers have figured out how to retain and monetize.
Yeah.
And these games have a relatively broad audience, but they retain and monetize better than the typical action arcade game. So that's how you can scale, right?
Yeah. What are some of the features that help give long-term retention to Mr. Autofire? This is something, as I said, once I started playing, I was quite impressed by the feature depth and how clever you as a company were about taking kind of the right features from other successful games. So kind of you have this core pick up and play shooter. What did you add to it to give it that depth and retention?
I think this is like a casual puzzle playbook answer, but I tend to think that our competition undervalues content. Retention is a lot about content, so you need to have constantly really good quality content for the players to interact with. Typically it is level content, campaigns, events, whatever, but it needs to be relevant for the player. So we actually did invest a lot in our content. We have some really talented level designers working on both games, just making really good quality content. On the feature side, it's actually quite interesting. When we came out with Mr. Autofire, it was very lightweight, and we kind of tacked on a lot of free-to-play features later on. Most of the time, we actually improved the KPIs of the game, specifically actually in monetization. So kind of the gachas and character banners and battle passes and all of that. I think they are primarily monetization features and retention features only a second. We actually just recently released social features, so we have like a guild feature, but I have no idea what it does to retention yet. I think we'll need to wait and see for a longer period of time before that type of feature really kind of proves its worth. So I guess long story short, I am a big believer in these. I guess it's a content trickle approach for retention. And these power progression features are more actually monetization features than anything else.
Got it. Since you run, to go back to the UA part, since you run so much UA, rewarded video ads, and I'm sure other formats as well, but that's what I personally see a lot. How has the company been affected by the ATT changes? Do you feel like you've been successful in navigating that? I mean, I feel like having that understandable gameplay probably gives you have strong ad creative in a way that other games might not. So what has that this experience been like for you? Because it's changed a lot of different companies in a lot of different ways.
I mean, we have for sure been affected by the changes. We are spending less on user acquisition now than we were last year. I don't think that's a secret. Generally speaking, with the privacy changes, there's targeting and measurement, right? And while measurement gets a lot of attention, it is in fact the targeting part that is kind of problematic. And as ad efficiency goes down, I think everyone loses. There may be relative winners in this, but they're kind of only just that, relative winners. So in the grand scheme of things, I don't think we're by far the worst off out of all mobile publishers, but it's definitely made our life a little bit harder as well. Okay. I think it's notable though, like that the business hasn't gone anywhere. There's still people still download games, people still play games, people still pay in the games. It is just the distribution that has changed, and everyone is learning how to work with this 2023 version of direct response marketing.
Yeah. And as you've grown from one game team to two, has the second game team been able to meet that same metric of can we build it in 3 months? Like, do you have something secretly out there in soft launch, or have you built and have you soft launched and killed a game already based on the response? Have you been able to stay true to that initial 5-question rubric as you've grown the second game team?
So we decided to actually start a new game roughly a year ago. From the beginning, we wanted to be a company that creates games and not only operates the first game that happens to be successful. So it was always in the plans. But the first 2 years, we're also a strong believer in focus. So we were really focused on Mr. Autofire. So we did have a marketing test out of the new game in February. We didn't make it in 3 months, though. We did it in 4, so we missed the mark by a month.
33% off.
Yeah.
4 months is still pretty good.
Yeah. I think in the grand scheme of things, it's okay. I mean, like I said, at the same time we were growing the company, and it was like shuffling a lot of people. Some people were doing 2 games at once, and that's not like the optimal thing. There's some things that I would do differently now with the experience that I have now. But we ended up still releasing a version of the game. We ended up measuring day one retention and marketing funnel. And yeah, I mean, it looked promising enough that we decided to also build the rest of the game.
Great.
So we are now kind of at the late stages of production of the second game. I guess the difference was that for Mr. Autofire, we just built on top of the marketing test launch. So we made a kind of a prototype with lipstick, and then we built on top of that. And for the second game, we thought that maybe we can afford now to take a breather and do more like a proper production. Yeah.
Build a strong foundation so you're not just struggling with tech debt all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So we're very close to we call it public beta. So I guess equivalent of soft launch.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear about that public beta and play it once it's once it's ready to kind of unveil. There's been a lot of great wisdom today, very relevant to me, especially literally what I'm doing right now. So thank you for all the free coaching and mentoring right now.
What are you doing, by the way, right now?
I'm building a new game studio. Yeah. Building a Web3 game studio. I know my business model. I'm building some prototypes. I'm looking for, a technical director or lead game engineer to come help. I've got some VC funding, and nice. It's got some really unique things about it, but not that I should share with the entire audience. But, if that sounds like fun to you, reach out on LinkedIn. But I'm building something that is very focused on just building a lot of fun games. And so I'm not, this was really well timed because Mr. Autofire is kind of on the dartboard of inspiration games for kind of the first batch of what we're doing. Yeah. So I thought we would leave with this. Here I am kind of at the early stages where you guys are at this great inflection point of doubling the team, having this 3-year anniversary, having this solid revenue success. What's kind of a top lesson you could give to me as a new game studio founder on something you wish you had known when you started the company, or something you knew but wish you had paid attention to more?
Yeah, that's a good one. Maybe one that I mostly believe in is assume that you are not good at recruiting, and then make it your priority to learn to be good at recruiting. It's something that everyone says, and then it's still somehow more important than you think. The impact of a hire in startup is so big. It's so much bigger than in a corporate environment. And you don't have like the structure to do the hiring. You don't have company reputation to get some inbound applications, and you will be constantly aching to get people into key positions. I think we've managed to do okay, but it's still something we could have done better. And I think investing founders' time and focus in recruitment is what you should do. So I think I would leave with that.
Wonderful. Well, those are great words to end on, or great wisdom to end on. Actually, this while we're talking about it, are there any key positions you're looking for right now? What are some of the folks you're looking to join the Lightheart squad? Join either that live game or that new game that's getting to public beta soon.
We are always looking for full stack game developers, really high level programmers who can make games from scratch and can operate in a live game environment. We're also looking for the same type of people in other disciplines. So really capable artists and really capable free to play product and design people. So there's nothing any more specific than that, but if you feel work with us and like the type of culture that we are running, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Well, Mika, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Thanks, Ethan.